All right, guys, my name is Chad Catron. We kind of got this thing started, but this is a collective effort of neighbors here. You're going to see that basically this is all coming together by neighbors telling neighbors. That's kind of the idea of it, is to get people invested in it, get invested in your neighbors' issues dealing with the county. So we're going to kind of recap. We decided to keep a little a structure to it this time because it went really long last time and people were wanting to leave. I know people have animals they want to take care of, so we're going to have some structure and kind of leave a lot of the issues towards the end, so you guys can comment more towards the end once we get some of the business done.
Can I interrupt really quick and say?
Yeah, that's opposite of what I wanted, but now let's go to that. Questions, comments?
So I can do this. Thank you all for coming, and this is great to do it, but I just want to mention that reserving this place did cost $50, so if you guys could leave $1 or something just to help out so we can continue to have these meetings and not have it fall on one single family would be awesome. Okay, go ahead.
That was on my list.
Oh.
That's all right.
I took it for
Sound
you.
better coming from you. I just wanted to address one issue before we get started. For those of you who don't know, when this all got going, I kind of immediately said, that's it, I'm running for county commissioner. I just want to be very clear that this group, this involvement of everyone here has nothing to do with me running for county commissioner. So this is all about property rights and supporting neighbors. It has nothing to do with supporting me and or my journey through politics. So I don't want anyone here to feel like if you're coming, it's because you're supporting me. It's not what it's about. You just have to listen to me talk once in a while. Okay, so we addressed the 120-day law. If you guys are unfamiliar with that, currently on the books, it's supposed to be getting changed. You're not allowed to stay on your property 120 days in an RV, non-permanent structure. You guys come in and sit down. You guys can get something to eat too, and then come in and sit down. This code, part of this code is supposed to be going away. So we're not necessarily planning on addressing it because it is supposed to be going away. What we are addressing was the new proposed codes where they want to limit you to two RVs on your property, as well as applying more regulations to those RVs. They're wanting you to have a pad, whether that's gravel, concrete, whatever was not specified, but they want you to have a pad. And they said you got to have a water source as well as a power source. So this group has decided that that is just a complete infringement on your private property rights. And whatever you decide to do or have on your property is no business of the county. And keep in mind, the county is a corporation. You are a private American. Keep that in mind. Unfortunately, the person who rewrote he wrote a petition for us to be able to electronically sign. Ken's going to come up and read it, but he's putting out an electronic petition so that you guys can sign it, get your neighbors to sign it, so that we can go in and present to the Planning and Zoning Board on, I believe, the 21st. On the 21st, go in and have our voices heard and talk about this, but we are also trying to submit electronic petition for anyone who can't make it, because many people don't make it to these kinds of things. So if you guys can get your neighbors, friends involved in it, who don't want restrictions from the county, try to get them to sign that as well. If you want to be a voice, we want you to come, we want you to speak. We are going to try and find a couple people who are going to read specific documents, I guess, clarifying our position as the PRO. But everyone is welcome to speak, obviously. The more people who speak on it, speak against it, the better off we are because our voices get heard. Yes, sir?
Could you give us your name again, please?
It's Chad, C-A-T-R-O-N. It's pronounced Catron, C-H-A-T.
Can we just elaborate a little bit more on why we want to sign this petition? It's not just about the amount of information you've given, it's also, the hookups does not clarify also sewage. And it also doesn't...
Oh, it didn't? Okay. It was just water source, power
Well, no,
source,
it said
correct?
hookups, so it could also include sewage. And
Okay.
this also, when you remove the 120 days, that also puts stored RVs in this category.
Right.
Okay?
They're not
So-
necessarily talking about you using
So
an
imagine
RV.
those that don't live off-grid but have an RV that you use during the summertime to play in. Does that now mean that you have to spend the money to add all those hookups? Right, so we need to think about that. It's not just
Right.
about off-gridders.
And Mike also addressed That's a good point. This isn't just an off-grid and homesteading issue. If you have an RV, this affects you. Mike also addressed the point on the commercial side of it where imposing these types of regulations on the commercial side is going to cost anyone quite a bit of money to set up each pad as well. And it's not the county's job to come in and regulate commerce and the way that type of stuff is ran. They are involved in the safety side of it, but keep in mind that if they come in and just start imposing more and more restrictions on something, they're double dipping into this because the state already regulates the water hookups, sewage hookups, and power hookups.
Yes.
And then Department of Transportation already regulates the RV itself.
Through the VIN number.
So what the county's doing is just trying to get in on the party, and they're trying to come up with a way that they can also get something out of this as well, again, on private property.
And their argument is gonna be that it doesn't cost you anything, but remember, this law will enable future laws to be created around it.
Is it law or statute?
These are codes. You guys, we're going to mix this up while saying it. I do it all the time. These are codes. Codes are not law. Keep that in mind as well. So we're going to have Ken come up and read, just so you guys are aware of where PRO stands on this. And this was voted in. Everyone that was at the last meeting agreed on this. So you guys being in here, you are the voice of this stuff. So if you have a question or a concern, you weren't here at the last meeting, please speak up and ask. But this thing, it's going to continue to move. We're moving on to new issues and new issues as the government continues to bring up more issues and more issues as well. So if you can be here and be involved, it's the best thing. Yes, sir.
Are the people aware that the petition, unless the county commissioners and the board recognizes a petition, that if they don't recognize it, it's null and void?
No, and this is not being submitted as an official petition, and it's not being submitted to the county commissioners yet. This next meeting is just a planning and zoning workshop, so it's just us getting it out there and saying, hey, everyone who showed up here is also backed by these people as well. One more question.
Yeah, do you have copies of the proposed new codes?
Their proposed new one?
Well, you're talking about the proposed.
So their proposed new one, they had put out electronically, and a bunch of us had read it and gone over it, and then through conversations with quite a few people in this room, Dan McDonald had stated, okay, we'll kick it back to planning and zoning, and they're going to rework on some stuff. So their official position, we can't even address it yet because it's not out yet. So what we're doing is kind of...
So what is the petition for?
The petition is because no matter what, they're going to come back and try to regulate on private property. That's a given. They're not going to give that up. They're going to continue to try and regulate on private property. That's how they make money. So our petition, especially, is to do away with planning and zoning feeling that they have any jurisdiction in private property. Corporation, private property jurisdiction.
In addition, the idea of this petition, as I understood it from our last meeting, was the few people in here, we've got a voice. The last elections, there was a swing of 500 votes. If we can put 500 voices behind a petition, anybody who can, on the board who can do math, ought to wake up and realize that we could swing a vote away from them. So that's kind of the idea of the petition. And I happen to have a copy of the petition, so I'll read it real quick. As property owners and residents of Bonner County, Idaho, it is our collective opinion that these proposed changes are unnecessary and further infringe on property rights provided for by both the federal and state constitutions. Given the provisions outlined in BCRC Title 12, Chapter 1, you are proposing to immediately condemn potentially tens of thousands of law-abiding Bonner County residents and business owners to criminal status until they install very expensive infrastructure on their properties in order to become compliant. In addition, the proposed changes would increase the volume and complexity of duties for deputies and clerical assistants working for the county officers. Job openings have been posted by the county for 2 positions relating to the administration and enforcement of this type of regulation. The addition of these positions further burdens the taxpayers, as we are the source of their funding. RV park and campground owners would also likely experience potentially crippling increase in capital expenses and operating costs just to try and meet the proposed demands. We consider this type of administrative action to be recursive and would only serve to increase the tax burden for the citizens of the county. Rather than implement the changes proposed in AM 0007-19, we propose the removal of Note 11 from BCRC 12-332 and recommend a more reasonable and mutually beneficial amendment to BCRC elements that relate to the use of recreational vehicles in a commercial setting to be proposed at a future date. And that's our petition.
I've got a question. In that, we're reciting, BRC Bonner County Code, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then we're reciting that AAM, what is that?
It is my understanding the AAM was the proposed changes that were kind of put out for people to voice their opinion on. They've been on Facebook, is that right, Adrian?
Yeah, and it's also online.
It's on the county page.
It's on the county
website.
page and available on Facebook. It's being passed around.
My question then is, okay, we're reciting their code to them, like what codes and what statutes are being applied to us. But then we're not reciting anything, any federal law or anything that supersedes, that is superior to what they're trying to lay on us. Does that make sense?
So you mentioned Constitution, we need to say where in the Constitution.
So we need to, I need to make sure that Mike does
Cite your sources.
some citing of sources like the college.
That makes sense.
Or even just the idea, for example, that Chad stated that this would be a regulation, this would be a commerce, right? So you can cite the commerce clause. So this would be interfering with commerce, which even as a state, you're not supposed to do.
Okay, but we're dealing with land issues, people. This isn't commerce. If we get caught up in this commerce argument,
And we're not.
This needs to be a land right argument.
Because they lump these two together, we just address the commercial side of it as well. We don't, as private property rights owners, we're not getting involved in the commercial side of it. They just lumped it together. So we addressed it as well.
I understand that, but we're arguing, now we're gonna argue via commerce when it's a land rights issue, correct?
Still, yes.
So we
Maybe
need to
if we mention it, just to say, not only is it a land rights issue, but it's a commerce issue and.
Yeah, it serves to
Which may
bolster
be
the
addressed
argument
by
not to
somebody
become the
else.
main thrust of the argument.
Okay, I understand that, but then now it spirals down somewhere that we don't need to be, and it needs to be a land rights argument, going, basically based off the land rights, our
So you're
land
saying
act.
keep the focus
Yes,
narrow as
exactly,
opposed to broad.
focus.
So should we only focus on residential, not commercial? Is that your question?
No, his point is, make sure it's about, hey, you're violating the property rights side of it, and that's all we need to talk about, because that's what you're violating.
Right.
My understanding is the petition is only is getting rid of it entirely unless it's commercial. So we're not dealing with a commercial, we're just saying you might want to reintroduce it for commercial use. But we're not dealing with commercial, we're dealing with
Right.
our property
Right.
rights.
Mike just addressed it because at the last meeting, we had talked about how, the issue even on the commercial side of it, there's flaws in it to where the county seems like they shouldn't even be involved in it because of the dual regulation. And I think it's just to kind of point out the continuous action of, constantly trying to get involved in it. We can drop it though. If you guys want to drop it, we can drop the whole commercial side of it too.
The website or location of your petition so that people can get there.
So this all started 2 weeks ago, so it's getting drafted up as of last week. It'll be available tomorrow.
Through the Facebook page,
You
correct?
can see it right now on the Facebook page.
So the PRO Facebook
On the
page.
PRO Facebook page, it's already on
No, not the petition.
there. Well,
The draft.
there's a rough draft of it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I read the whole thing, the
Oh, I
rebuttal
thought
that
it
you
was
just
off the
read.
email. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
it was on the, I can't remember. Find it, it was on there, I read it.
Well.
Everything you just read, I've heard it already.
Not through email though?
I know it's on the Facebook page, on the
Oh,
email.
okay.
So maybe-
Mike did send an email out. I don't know who it was addressed to.
We just sent it out, so the idea behind this is rough. We want all of our voices to be a collective voice. So it's not us saying this is our voice stand behind it. We want to hear from you guys. So this was just a rough draft, and now we want your opinions, and now we'll make it solid, and then we'll get it out for signatures.
But this petition, you will be able to find it on the PRO Facebook group page.
Oh, you're right, it was the email.
Come on, Jeff.
Yes, sir.
Another thing, in my experience, if you flood county commissioner's offices with telephone calls stating that you're against this or that, it may go just to their secretary, but the secretary has to write that down and they have to get it to the commissioner. So if you flood them, they will get a message from that. Flood them with calls.
That's how we were able to get them to consider dropping the hookup terminology, which is still not, again, it has to still go through the, committee, not the commissioners, the building.
You're absolutely
They
right,
need to
though.
flood them with calls.
So-
I mean, every day.
So we flooded them on
3 or 4
Facebook,
times a day even.
and our buddy Dan got on there, and I think we overwhelmed them a little. And then Milton got on there, and Milton says, okay, we're gonna propose to remove the word hookup. So we did it on Facebook,
Yep.
and then now we're ready to go in and do it.
It does work. It does.
Yeah.
And I think the important message is that if, obviously, if we're a voice and we make ourselves heard, that our government is going to work in the direction we want it
Because we
to.
are their constituents.
Absolutely.
They have to
Correct.
listen.
Well, the other
Now,
thing,
here's something to think about.
did we find it to be very effective, how we all kind of
Yeah.
stuck stern, but we didn't let him name call us, and, because he tends to do that sometimes, get off track. I think we did really well.
Something to consider is we can flood their phone lines, we can show up at the meeting. But if they've got a bigger voice that's already spoken in another venue,
Like developers.
then we have a problem, because it's been shown already that, it's Dan McDonald, right, is very open to being pushed by the constituency, but if he feels there's a bigger voice with a bigger message,
Because
He's
he's
gonna
donating
follow
more
us.
money to his campaign.
That's, like you said, a bigger message.
Yep. We understand it, we're not dumb.
so, anyway, that's the petition.
Well, and the meeting is on the 21st, and on that same line of flooding for phone calls, we should all be calling and asking when the meeting is and where it is and what time, because we've been warned that they could change it very quickly.
The venue
without
could
letting
be
people
changed
know.
up on us pretty quickly. Apparently, that's a tactic used. So we're
So
gonna
can we
keep.
try to keep it updated maybe on a PRO page so
Yeah.
we can
Absolutely.
make sure we know?
So that kind of covers that. Tracy was also, she also had prepared something that she was going to read. She was going to read it here tonight as well, and she sent it to me. It was basically the same stuff. It was well written. She just wanted to make sure that the group was on board with it. So basically, we need people there on the 21st. If you're here because you care about property rights, we need you there speaking, because that's where it's going to matter. If there's anyone who feels that they want to read something, certainly do it.
You have
If there's
3 minutes.
someone who wants to
Three.
read something for the group, let us know. If you'd like to be a voice in these meetings, yes.
So is what Tracy wrote something that we can script from for those 3 minutes?
Hers was pretty long, but I think you could nail it in 3 minutes. I think it could be done.
Okay.
I think that, and I kind of talked to Mike about it, but I think, having these 3-minute long reads peppered with, just quick, hey, we don't know out in favor of this, thank you, bye. Just the quick little reiterations of our point, and parading all of us up there and making it known. I think that that's just as valuable as well, not just 2 people reading 2 decent-sized, well-written papers.
Well, and some of us can give our time to somebody else, right? Like if somebody needs 6 minutes to say
I believe
something
you
that's
can, whether or not that's how they run it, I don't know. But I know that that's done in other venues. They don't like that?
They don't like that.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, they get 4 people up there and the guy can
I don't know that everyone is due their 3 minutes. I don't know if at a certain point they're just like, okay, shut up, go away. I can't tell you.
Doug will know.
We don't know yet.
They really are fairly rational about this. It's 3 minutes, but if you're speaking on subject and you're speaking, not repeating yourself, they'll give you an extra minute or 2 if that's really what it takes.
Okay.
As commissions go, and I've seen several, these folks aren't that bad. They like to think that they listen to their constituents. Steve is very good.
Bradshaw.
Bradshaw, just
I would like to think that all three of them are. So hopefully this route that we're going on, hopefully this gets the job done for those of us who care about private property rights.
Well, Jeff Connolly may have shown up tonight if you was invited.
Well, he's welcome to come.
Have you told him?
No.
Sure.
I'd rather talk to the people and make sure
Yeah,
that
but
the
see,
people know to be
he
here.
goes to these kind of meetings.
Why don't you tell him?
I might.
He's welcome to come. They're all welcome to come.
No, all I'm saying is sometimes you just need to reach out to them and they'll connect with you on a little bit.
Well, he's
more
not my
quickly.
district, so I wouldn't reach out to. I wouldn't reach out to him anyway.
He still covers the whole county.
Sure.
I would also add that if you're really overtly hostile to individuals that are sitting up there or even other folks in the room, they discourage that.
Which we're not encouraging. We want everyone to voice your opinion, read what you have to read, and and try not to get too passionate. Obviously, we don't want to make a bad name for this newly rising group. We want to make sure that their name, our name, is a professional one.
Right.
Well, that's pretty much it, guys, as far as what we were doing tonight. We were talking about what we'd come up with, what we talked about, make sure everyone knows about the petition, and then we've got, I guess we can talk about new issues to kind of bring them to light. Mike had brought up on the last one that he was dealing with issues. They weren't allowing him to have voting rights. They wouldn't give him his voting rights because he didn't have a structure on his property. That's what he was told. And then I believe Lynn had sent out an email showing him that that's illegal. It's my understanding. So these are just the little issues that we're trying to tackle in this group. Is the county might be doing things as though what they understand is lawful or legal, and we're finding those holes and making sure that they're running properly. Guys, that's our job. None of those guys are lawyers. They're all kind of just snowballing off the last person, and it's our job to hold them accountable, and we do that in a professional manner. Yes, sir.
When we come up with issues, what are we doing as a group to find out if what the county's doing is legal? Is that on the individual that's having the issue, or are we as a group organizing some sort of a committee or a smaller group to go investigate?
So as this develops, we can definitely, if people fall into that niche of, hey, I'm really good at digging into the laws and figuring out whether or not this is legal, lawful, whatever. The way it worked, Mike brought up a concern, and then Lynn took it upon herself to find that that was illegal. There's a few of us that have dealt with issues, and we were like, well, hey, that's not the process we had to go through, because my wife and I have bought multiple pieces of property, and we've been able to get our addresses without having structures on it. And what you're getting is an address for services, to be able to call 911 or the fire, whatever. That's how they can find you. So to deny someone that seems dangerous to me in itself, and to deny him that under the guise of, well, you don't have a structure.
Or a permit for one. That was, so they said since you haven't permitted, but since you haven't started the permitted process yet, once you do that, then we'll assign an address.
Which I don't think we did.
I don't have a structure on my property, and I have an address.
I know.
So the only thing I was supposed to do in 16 was to make sure my driveway was per their codes, I guess, am I using the right terms? Whatever their specifications of how a driveway can be built. Jake, you might know this right now.
Yeah, tell us.
When you're pushing a driveway through, you've got to do it in
Yeah, it's a certain, basically what it is there's how they establish the address is just the mileage from an established point to where your driveway is.
Right.
Or where
But
your
do you
mailbox
have to
will
have
be.
your driveway already put in? And
Not necessarily, no.
they have to
I've
come
done,
by and-
I've done two that didn't have any driveway
Yeah,
yet.
I
It's
don't-
just where they're planning to put, I'm gonna put my mailbox right there.
Yeah.
That's my address right there.
Well, and I believe he'd established residency already.
There's a driveway.
I mean, you have a driver's license, right?
Well, we
I
had
mean, you
one
can't have a
neighbor
driver's
that couldn't
license.
put a driveway in because of the steepness of his hill, and he had to do a switchback right away on it. But anyways, it took him forever, and then he was finally able to get a driveway in. So surely there's something you have to do.
I was
Ken.
gonna mention, it could be, and I don't know for a fact, but it could be that it does need to be a legal easement allowing you access to your property.
Yeah.
So if it's.
We're on a road.
Okay, it's coming right off and it's not.
Literally, right, yeah.
On a
See,
county road or a private road?
Well, it's all private road, the whole way up, everybody's on this private road.
Do you understand what I mean by private road by per county, like a blue sign?
Well, even a private road, we live up a private road,
It's
we have an
very
address.
clear.
Well,
it's
I'm gonna
very- it's
explain,
very
the reason I'm
clearly
gonna explain
accessed.
that is because we live off of a private road. And the person that moved in there first, at the beginning of the road, was the one that enabled us to get our address. And didn't have to go through any process.
No, it shouldn't be on that road.
Yeah, there's no way.
It's really weird, yeah.
There's lots of.
That was something that I
Yeah,
thought about the way home the last time.
Well, so to kind of answer your question, man, what we're doing right here is just coming together and figuring it out and just helping each other out. So no one's got to dedicate it anything just yet. Let me call her right back there because her arm is dying. Yes, ma'am.
So, along this addressing issue, our house was built in the 80s, and we have a secondary driveway off of a different road to a different building site. I have addresses currently on both building sites. There's structures on my property, several of them. I went in to build a hay barn, and they're telling me I now have to have an address.
For your hay barn?
Yes, that's what it started out with, is that because the hay barn is the only structure on the property, it needs an address. I'll share.
Well, and the address is you have to pay for that, because they have to send somebody out to inspect the access.
So I had to get a driveway permit already. They made me get a driveway permit to start with, and that was last week.
Did you get a driveway permit?
I had to get an encroachment permit approved. It was $65 is really all they wanted,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they drove out, they turned around and
That's what
left.
it's, $65,
So
they come out and they
I know
inspect
you
the
say it's
access.
65, that's all they wanted.
No, I'm saying that was the only reason why they did it.
I know, but just kind of that, it's just 65 bucks. One thing you guys gotta remember is like that's not much, right? It's very little. My permit that I'm taking a stand on is free. I don't agree with it on principle, and I'm still taking the stand. So don't get sucked into the, well, it's only this much, or it's only this much. Because this much from all of us is then maybe
Well,
$5.
the next thing we know, it's gonna be like out east, and then nobody can afford to live on their land.
Yeah, then you gotta.
Yes, sir.
I will say, where you're registered to vote, you must physically live there, because that
Yeah, we do.
determines what
But they
precinct
can't
you're in.
register
If
to
you're
vote
physically
without
living
address.
there, I don't know how they can stop
Part
you.
of it is the issue is not everyone here lives in a way that the code accepts. And so what some of these people are not doing or saying is, hey, if I stick my neck out and tell them this, now I'm in violation of this code. That's the biggest issue we're seeing. That's why I'm up here speaking for a lot of people in this room who aren't saying anything, is because if they say it, now the county's down their throat looking at something else. It's just
And
this
let's raise our hand,
self-incriminating
who
circle.
moved up here, who lives up here for the freedom that you thought was gonna be here? The last frontier.
Born and raised here, and then I came crawling back because the rest of them.
And so we're talking about people that, they don't live on 1 acre lots, they don't live in the city. We're not, we live on 20 acre lots, 10 acre lots, we live in the country, okay? And we left the city, or we didn't move into the city because we didn't want to be offensive to our neighbors. So why are they using Google Maps and realtor websites to find out what we're doing?
That's a good point, and one of the issues with the way that they're, policing these codes is it's like one size fits all. Where these codes might make sense to someone inside city limits. Like, yeah, I don't want 5 RVs on my property. Like, yeah, I totally get your point. But when you can't see inside our properties because we live on 20, 30, 40 acres and it's completely treed, it's none of your business. You harm no one. This one size fits all is an issue. Yes,
So I'm
Jane?
wondering if we can, to address the original question about how these issues are dealt with, perhaps we should submit to either the site or something for the upcoming meeting, issues that we have concerns with, so that some people can study ahead of time. I can see that we could go around, for a
Yeah.
long time on an issue, and if you didn't come to hear that particular issue, it might be discouraging to someone.
Sure.
So maybe we can, kind of hash out some of those details or know what we're going to discuss if we submit, not that it has to be approved, but just so we're aware
Right, yeah.
of what concerns we have as a group, as
And
a community.
if anyone has an issue that they don't want to bring to light because they're worried about it, contact me privately and I'll bring it up as if it's mine.
Because we're already going after, we're
Yeah.
already going after, we have
So are you,
prosecuting attorney letter and all sorts of threats happening, so we're already in it.
are you okay with us telling stories on Facebook, getting personal if we choose? If we
On the PRO
Yeah, so
site,
like, let's say they wouldn't mind posting on there, here's my situation with the driveway. Does anybody have any advice for me? Could she do that, or? do we
I
need
think
to
as long as the
face-
information of who we are and what we're doing doesn't get lost in like the BS that gets
Okay.
created, I'm totally okay with it. I think that's something we kind of need to ask everyone. And if it starts to become a mess, we can just start cleaning it up and say, okay, no more of that. So, I mean, if people have issues and they want to share it, I'm okay with it.
Just keep it respectful.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I took classes on Center for Self-Governance, and one of the first things they tell you is get to know your representatives. I haven't seen anybody here that I know of, maybe I'm missing somebody, at the county commissioner meetings. Why are people not going to the county commissioner meetings just to get to know them? How come they're waiting for a reason, to complain about something or whatever, then they go? I mean, if you went and established a relationship with them, you can talk to them, they're people, and you're supposed to be doing that as citizens. You're supposed to be going to these meetings, put them on your calendar, try to make 3 a year or something, just to go and get to know them, establish a relationship with them.
I agree with you, and I can tell you I'm definitely guilty of it. I had nothing to do with politics and didn't want anything to do with politics until it came and knocked on my door. And so that's why I got into it, and I'm definitely guilty of it. But I'm here now, and now this group is formed, and now these neighbors are talking about issues, and I understand your point of going and talking to our leaders. I know some of us have talked to the commissioners or talked to a commissioner, and it doesn't seem well received, at least from one of them. And I don't sit here and claim the way I go about it is the right way, because mine's much more challenging.
I've been going to their meetings. I've probably been to more county commissioner meetings than any of our county commissioners. Because I've been going for 4 years plus. But, when I send them emails, I get response. It's, her issue with her, they've got emergency service, the barn gets on fire, they gotta know where to go.
I have an address. I have a house.
You said the barn's not on that.
Oh, no, yes it is.
Okay.
I
Well,
have
if
2
it is,
addresses
then
on my
you have to-
property.
But by and large, they do rational things, and by and large, they listen, but some less than others, definitely so.
Well, I voted for someone to represent me in my county government, and I don't feel I need to have a personal relationship with him, and I did email him. And I got off with you, and I have not gotten a response from Steve, and he said we met. And, when I emailed him, I read all about him, he's for small government and this and that, and I thought, well, that's not, the proof's in the pudding.
And what I mean by establishing a relationship is they know you. I mean, you haven't just come out because something's wrong and complain about something, but all of a sudden they're seeing you at the meeting. Say you do just five a year or whatever, and they get to know you. People need to do that to watch them, and they know that they're being watched. This is good. This is citizen input.
I agree with what you're saying, and I think your point is very valid. However, I also don't think that this is the wrong way of going about getting into politics either.
Yeah.
But if I could agree with you 100%, agree with me 100%, that's where I'm coming from. I absolutely agree with your point. And for me, I kind of took it as, well, let's fight back. And so here we are fighting back and getting involved, but this is the beginning, at least for me, of coming to these meetings and being involved. The commissioner meetings are like 9:30 in the morning, I believe. That's
9 o'clock.
That's
So I
it's
live-
tough to get to.
I live in Spirit Lake. For me to go to the meetings and the drive there and the drive back would be 3 hours for me. I have children, it's very difficult. But as you know, I recognized you guys, and I also thanked you guys for what you have done. Because I've been watching them on Idaho News Report since March, since she started airing it. And actually last meeting, I stood up and I asked and encouraged everyone to watch them if you can't make it to the meeting. It's unfortunate that the county's office is on one side of our county.
But, well, I do want to make another comment though too. These planning and zoning
committees that are being formed, if you look at who's in these planning and zoning committees, it's a lot of real estate brokers and real estate people, agents. So then what they're trying to do is, I mean, if you're in the business of trying to get, top dollar for real estate, what are they gonna do? They're gonna drive up property prices.
Sub-area plan committees, I'm on one, I'm not a real estate agent.
I understand.
But can I ask you a question? How many out of the 8 are on there?
Well, that's what he's saying.
How many realtors? Can you give
There tends
me,
to be a lot of realtors.
is there any way that you know how many right now off the top of your head?
I'm at least 4.
Okay, so I brought this up, a realtor was on, we were discussing the RV situation on, I think it was Blanchard's Facebook page, and Dan McDonald's was on there, and a realtor mentioned, can I be one if I'm a realtor on that committee? And Dan said, sure, and I said, isn't that a conflict of interest? And then he went on and rambled about how anything could be a conflict of interest, and I just.
I don't know how you could do that without discriminating, as much as, like, I would say that's, obviously he's not gonna be, against development. We can all see where this area is going with development, just in the last couple of years, the amount of boom this area's taken. And it's gonna continue, unfortunately, but I think then you're getting into discrimination. I agree with you,
attended the Priest Lake sub-area meeting last Monday, and my friend Susie Hatfield, who is a realtor, she got chosen for that committee. Member, I originally tried to apply, and sat in there, and they were saying things like, this is an elderly community. I'm a homeschool mom, I live there, our homeschool group is huge, okay? It is not, that's not the case. The people they've chosen for that committee are out of touch with that community. I go to church, I run a farmer's market, I'm a homeschool mom, I'm involved with the Forest Service, and they just don't know what's going on. Susie Hatfield originally applied for the Priest River Committee, and they put her at the Priest Lake Committee. The commissioners did, or whoever's in charge of that other committee. And I thought that was very interesting.
And that's an important point, is even like, this is a volunteer position, right? But these are the kinds of things that we need to get involved in, and I know you guys have tried twice now, and that's.
I just submitted another email, because there's 2 alternate committee members, and I'm trying to get on to be an alternate, we'll see.
Yeah, and I don't know if by this group forming, if that's gonna help our odds, or if it's going to decrease our odds of getting, our people onto those boards.
The real issue you're going to have is that these committees represent what's known as regionalization.
Yep.
Well, and we're coming up on redistricting again too, ain't we?
Well, by the nature of having every county or county will be doing that anyway, but the regionalization impacts of this thing are significant. You now have unelected people that are going to be making decisions that government is going to be carrying through for what they view as another branch of government. And I mean, part of the reason I volunteered to get on the thing in the first place, but be prepared,
Something like what he's talking about, guys, this is the fight that we have coming up. Jane's arm's dying, go ahead.
I think one thing that we can do to try to prevent being a reactionary group to whenever we have issues coming is maybe reading through the planning and zoning document. I'm pretty sure it's online. I haven't looked it up yet, but I would imagine the planning and zoning, you just have, this is the whole thing.
This is the one.
This just happens to be right next to you.
So, because if the planning and zoning has authority to place codes for residents in Bonner County, then we need to know as busy as we are, as much as we like to think that our representatives are there with a constitutional voice, they're not necessarily, because if they're getting pushed from the liberal side or getting paid for whatever.
And their own personalities as well.
Right, so we need to, and I realize my own ignorance, thinking I'm conservative and then realizing how much I'm really not as conservative as I thought I was, and learning. So we need to educate ourselves. If we can read through this planning and zoning document and find areas where, hey, we're probably not going to be able to toss out the entire planning and zoning commission as much as we would love to do that. But if we can read through it and be able to proactively say, hey, here's something that is not constitutional and they have no business getting, you know, then we can address those issues.
That's a really good idea. So could we put someone in charge that will post the title section that we're gonna discuss at the next meeting, like a few days prior? Then everybody can read it over, come up with their questions, and that way we're prepared at the meeting.
That's a good idea too.
And then we just slowly, I mean, obviously this group's not going away tomorrow, we slowly go through all of it. And we just do it one chip at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can do that along with, you know, when someone shows up and has an issue, we tackle it. You know, we don't have to tackle them necessarily one at a time. We can continue tackling a bunch. It seems to me, based off of the way that the commissioners were speaking, that these commissioners are trying to do away with these codes that they did not put into place, which is understandable. My issue is that if you don't agree with them fundamentally and you're wanting to get rid of them, why are you enforcing them? Why are we continuing that circle? So that's something that we need to address, where if they don't want them, why are they enforcing them? And not buy into the, well, we don't want them. If you're enforcing them, you want them, you're in favor.
There's another side to that. As an executive, you're obliged to force laws that you don't agree with. If the law needs to be changed or done away with, that needs to be done in the legal fashion. If you stop enforcing laws, you get what you have in Chicago.
Yeah, these are not laws though.
Yeah,
And that makes the difference where that duty comes into play.
But rules also,
Well, and I understand that. I guess my point is that, you know, if you're a person of morals, you're not going to go after your neighbor for something and put them into a cage. You're not going to do it. I wouldn't do it. If I believed in my heart that that was wrong, I would never put a neighbor of mine in a cage and say, I totally agree with that neighbor, but have fun in Bonner County Jail. I wouldn't do it.
The argument is we're not in the city, we're in the country, and if the state already has a limited amount of laws for building codes, why is the county adding to it? Because, you know what I mean? Like, the county's just a county, it's not.
There's more revenue.
Yeah, the county shouldn't be mandating what we do in the
And to
county.
this gentleman's point, regionalization, for those of you who have
Yes.
not, who are unfamiliar with this, look into it.
Yes.
You know, my family moved from North Carolina upon discovering the extent to which this regionalization had removed from us pretty much all rights.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And the constitutional ability to defend those.
Yes.
Yeah.
it is indeed. And a lot of this stuff that is coming in coming in engineered from far, and they're not presenting it as a leftist thing, even though it is.
Yeah.
They're being as quiet and subtle about this stuff as they can
possible.
possibly.
And if you wanna live in a community that has these kind of rules, they have CCNRs and HOAs and newly.
Which is a great argument.
You'll fit great in that area.
It's a great argument when people bring up, well, what about my property when my neighbor drives down my value of it? You need to either buy your neighbor's property so that it's not your concern, or you need to get rid of your entitlement of that neighbor's property. What your neighbor does on his property is his right. What you do on yours is your right. And until you negatively affect someone or break a law, how is it anyone's concern what you do? That's the basis of property
So we're
rights.
territorial, we're animals, we're territorial, but what makes you have the right to tell me where your territory starts and mine ends when you don't own that land?
Right.
Yes.
Right, and that comes from, you know, we chipped away a little bit at a time, and it becomes more acceptable to tell people what to do, and it's more acceptable, and then this stuff comes into town where they get more radical on it, and then people eat it up, you know, because they'll fearmonger with the tent city argument.
Yeah.
Well, no one wants tent city next to them.
Go
Good
to
luck
North
living in
City.
a tent city in North Idaho. You'll make it one You gotta watch out for those fear-mongering arguments, but there's people out there that buy it. Like, oh yeah, I don't want to
I
do
think
that
some
either.
people understand what it's like to live in a tent.
Fine by me, go for it. You're not bothering me.
I got a letter, this is something maybe for the next meeting that if somebody wants to look it up or maybe look into it. I got a letter from the county stating that they're gonna start taxing me on an excavator that I purchased.
Oh my gosh.
My question is, what excavator?
What did you bring the letter with you?
Do any of you know what I own?
Do you know where it
How
came
does the county know what I own?
Did it come from the assessor's
Google
office?
Maps.
Who did it come from?
It came from Bonner County Assessor's
So are
Office.
they looking at the DMV?
Nobody has been on my property. We have a gate. They
Well,
can't get
actually,
on my property.
You don't even get a DMV license for an excavator.
No, you don't.
That's why they're probably going after
It's
it, just like if you park.
unregistered, it's an unregistered
So,
off-road vehicle.
as you guys know, I have an off-grid page, and a few months ago, someone brought up that the county was trying to tax them on their generator, which, if I'm not mistaken, when they went to Home Depot, they should have been taxed there.
Well, they also will try to tax you on, say, like a tractor trailer you have parked there that doesn't have tags on it, because since it's not registered on the road with tags, they'll consider it an accessory structure on your
Yeah.
property.
And that brings up a great point of why they're trying to define an RV in the building code.
This is all about
Is
revenue.
because if you don't register that RV, let's say you do live in your RV and you've got foam around it and heat lamps and blah, 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 and that's how you live your life, which is no one else's business. Why would you wanna tag that with the DMV when it doesn't leave your property? Well, now the county, because it's gonna put it in the building codes as a definition, as a building location permit, you will have to keep it, whatever your setbacks are. I'm in Ag 20, so mine's 40 feet. So now you have to keep that RV 40 feet from your property line, and you now can have it as an inhabitable structure, which I bought all the way to my property line. I didn't buy all but 40 feet from my property line.
Thank you.
I agree with you.
If you don't want
on
to see my
setbacks.
RV, keep your trees up. It's not my problem.
The only thing that makes sense about setbacks is if I try to build a building right on my property line, and then that requires me to go onto my neighbor's property to build that structure. There's no way for me to build that one wall right here
Sure.
without being on their property. So I get having some sort of guidelines
Yeah.
on, like, you know, you have to at least be able to access this portion of
Yeah.
the structure that you're building. Or you have to have an agreement with your neighbor, I suppose.
Yeah.
If I try to build a building right on my property line, my neighbor now can't build a building right on his property line right there either.
Yeah, which is understandable.
That
and-
makes sense.
And part of that is about being good neighbors, you know, and
Yeah.
talking
It is.
to your neighbor.
And-
I know
and
my
these
neighbor,
guys
I could build whatever I want, you wouldn't care.
But why does there
These
need to be
guys-
technically, why does there have to be a setback? Because
Exactly.
if you step on my property and
Exactly,
build your
that's-
fence, I call the cops, you're trespassing.
That's exactly right. So, and the county even keeps saying, this is all about setbacks. All we care about is setbacks. If that's all they care about, then why is that all they're saying? That's not all they're saying.
Next question.
They care about revenue. That's right.
On the setbacks, who's to determine what the setbacks are? Who comes out and determines the property line? Do they come out and pay for someone to come out and do
Exactly.
that?
From my experience, they walked out and looked at it and walked away.
Yeah, they don't know.
There was
they
no
don't know what the
measurements that
property
took
line
Even
is.
the
place,
county's
and they'd have
website is
nothing to
5 to
measure
10 feet
too.
off.
Because most of it's just into the trees, because we don't have fences.
Yeah, on our property, they came out and measured it.
They measured.
Yeah, they took a big long tape measure and measured it.
But how do they know where the property line was?
Well, there was a stake.
Okay, but if there was.
But you
Yeah.
paid for a
How do they
survey,
not
right?
say this?
No, it was already there when we bought the property, but they came out and measured it.
You'll never find ours.
Yeah.
They're so far out the woods.
So I guess where I was going with that was a couple of questions. Does anyone know if it is legal for the county to use drones to assess our properties?
No, it's
It's
not.
against
No,
the
it's
state.
So-
not. Okay, then I wanna know,
Is it?
how in the hell does the county know what I have on my property?
They're
And
probably the
How,
same.
how can they establish what the value of it is? They're trying to tack on $136,000 to my property
Well, I
now.
can tell you how they found out we had a shower house instead of a storage
Well,
unit.
I can
It's a
tell you
realtor's
that
page.
unless you have listed your house and had that sort of stuff on a real estate website, which they are using,
They did that on us.
he could have gotten you just because he went through Google Earth. That's how they got into our property, is they used Google Earth to
Or-
look
It
into our
hasn't been on the
property.
property
Okay,
that long.
so Lee told me one thing, the code compliance officer that came out, and I said, that is unethical for you to use realtor.com to find out I have a shower in a shed, because we're building, by the way, okay? And it's gray water. And, he said, no, it's not. He said, I can use Google Maps. He said, but one thing I will not use is Facebook, and I know you advertise on Facebook, but he did say he does not use
Is
Facebook.
it for a business?
What's that?
Is it for business,
What?
your excavator?
It is owned by a business.
So that's what they're taxing. They're taxing a personal, it's called personal property tax. And it's business related.
So, okay, help me out here.
And they do use high-resolution
I don't
satellite
know how they know
imagery.
you have it.
And
but
from
that's
that, you
what they're
can
coming
measure setbacks, you can measure almost everything. You
G-
can get down.
GIS told me they don't use that.
So that's.
That's what they told me. They said the technology is there, but they do, that Bonner County does not use that.
So how do they
Let's take his
know?
word
But
for it.
even if
How do
that's,
they know?
how could an excavator add $130,000 to your property value? 'Cause
It's personal property tax.
But you could move it to somewhere else. I mean,
It's
you
been
could-
on my property for
can park it
approximately
wherever
3
you
weeks
want.
in the last 6 months.
Yeah, so how can
So
that?
are we now
Certain-
officially over
certain
33%
jurisdictions
taxing?
assess the right to tax your property, not your physical, not necessarily your real estate
personal
property, but your personal property. So if you,
But
you know,
it's
back
usually
east, if you
business
have
related.
cars, they're taxing your cars on top of the road use fee and the
So I
registration
think
fee.
we need to add this to the
Business
fight
tax.
because
I
what's
think
next,
two, I
cows
think
and
two
goats?
things that you
Yeah,
should go and
exactly.
ask the assessor why they're
That's
doing
exactly
what
My
they want
kid's
to do.
tricycle?
Like they're tying it to the property, if they're tying it to your business.
Exactly.
I don't care what they're tying it to, I wanna
No,
know
no,
how they know about it.
I'm saying establishing that, so figure out what it is they're trying to do. Tell them you want the law that shows they can do it, and then ask them how they know that you even have that on your
They
property.
sent in the letter, there is a list of a whole bunch of different laws,
Neil,
or
do you have a
maybe codes.
website?
Well,
Not a
probably
Facebook,
codes.
a website?
What's
Do you
that?
have a website page?
Yeah, kinda.
Because he said he will not use, Facebook because you have to log in, so it's considered
But
private.
that's one
But
one
website.
enforcer, and that could be his moral code.
Yeah.
He don't do
Online.
Facebook.
That's his line.
That could just be his thing. There's other county
We
enforcers out
can
there.
get laws changed, I understand we can
Well,
get
these are
laws
codes,
changed, and
man.
maybe codes, statutes, laws, we can get them all changed. We can get people out of office, and we can get other people in office. What I wanna know is how do they know I have it? That's the biggest problem I have right now, nobody's been on it.
Neil, do what I did, go to your code compliance officer, look him in the eyes and say, how did you do this? We went in there, two technicians standing next to him, and he said, I used the realtor.com website. And I said, that should be illegal, he said, it's not. And I said, anyways, it's unethical, and you can't use drones, I don't know why you can do that.
We've seen drones.
So you need to get him to admit it and have your phone on recording. And then we should create a list at the sign-up sheet at the front that says, what is your concern? And we need to start organizing all these ideas and what we're gonna go at next, because he's got a good point.
Yep. And that
He's
could be,
exactly what
so
our
we've been
neighbor-
talking about planning and zoning. The assessor's office is an issue as well, and this is an example of it.
Yes.
That's also an elected official, guys.
So we need to write down the driveway one, his, ours, because I still wanna stand up in front of the commissioners with a letter telling them what they're doing is unethical, and we
Well,
need
it's
to get on
not,
board.
it's not the
with this
commissioners, it's planning and zoning.
stuff. Okay, sorry.
But in
No,
the
I
issue
can't
is,
stand up, I'm getting pissed off.
we don't want you to speak then.
No, you don't want me talking.
Yeah. Just sit in the back and, yeah, what he said. Part of the issue too is that, you know, there seems to be obviously some sort of conflict in the way planning and zoning says that they do business and the way Dan says that they don't do business. So if they're lying, if Milton's not telling Dan the way they are going about it, that's an internal conflict that needs to get resolved.
Yes.
If Dan's lying to us, knowing full well that they are, why is he hiding it? These are the issues and the things that we need to get out into the public, because when the public knows they're being lied to, then we get all upset. We might even leave the couch to go vote.
That's also better.
That's what we need to get people
So
to
how
do.
do we go about the next agenda, because, the RV thing, hopefully, knock on wood, will be, finalized,
Right.
in 2 weeks. So we need to get the next one, and, I mean, I don't know which, of our 3 problems we should go with next, but we should come up with a game plan.
Well, for one, knowing what planning and zoning plans on talking about next, their next proposed meetings, and then what's on the agenda, we need to be keeping up with that stuff, as well as bringing up our issues. And I think when we bring up our issues, we bring up the county commission meetings and let them know what's going on. Not 100% sure of the best way to go about it.
I think the issues will create the code that we cover next.
Yeah.
Maybe we could bring a question at the meeting on the 21st, asking how are they getting their information of, you know, we need to have some parameters to know how you are legally getting information
Right.
to send out code compliance letters, to send out.
Right. And you know, there's a big conflict of interest there because like the tax assessor's office does have an account with the MLS. They've got the keys to the city, yet
No.
they claim that they don't use it.
No, they only get limited information according to the executive director of the Selkirk MLS.
According to them, yes,
But
they
it
do.
still should be in writing
Has anyone
somewhere,
ever
and we
seen
need to
it?
know what
No.
those
Like,
are.
what is the difference between what Realtor.com or Zillow gives you versus what MLS has versus what the assessor's office gets to see.
Right.
We don't, no one knows that.
So, according to Dan McDonald and a couple others, including Milton, they do not use Selkirk MLS except for in the assessor's office. And that is for sales stats, which is funny because we're a right-to-know state, but anyways.
Right. Which is another issue because the people don't
Exactly.
know to not disclose it because most people don't know the assessor's office has the account.
Exactly,
And when they got the account, they said, well, you know, if they don't want us to know the information, they just got to tell us.
Yes.
Well, if they don't know to tell you, you get all that information that is designed by law to not be told to anyone.
Right.
And to me, it's dirty.
They push it though.
So they use the realtor.com page, and that's what Lee told my husband and
I don't believe what he says at this point, you know what I mean? These are the things that we need to figure out now. And part of this too, guys, and part of this is going through the FOIA process, using the Freedom of Information Act to get this information. They could lie about it to your face, and then as soon as they submit it, it could be completely different. They might not even know. They might say, no, we don't do that. And then they go in and dig in their computers and find out, oh, okay. Anything that the county does within a certain limit, unless it's, most everything the county does and county employees do, that stuff is FOIA requestable. Even down to the county paid for my cell phone. If the county pays for their cell phone, you can FOIA their cell phone.
When Ken and I went in there after we got our abated letter, because we want to make sure we had everything in writing, we got our abated letter, we went in, and we talked to the technician, and she went through all the notes, and she printed them. She even showed me the private notes. I even got to read those. Nowhere on there said how I was told on, so I thought it was
Right.
my neighbor.
Right.
It
That's
was-
what I was told as
It
well.
was.
And I can tell you it wasn't my neighbor.
It was us not wanting to leave until we got an answer, and that's when Lee came out
Right.
and told us.
A FOIA request forces their hand.
But my point is if somebody's waited 6 months to a year,
Right.
oh, I don't remember, it's not in our notes.
Right. Let me call him real quick.
So I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that you can record all these conversations, right? And that it's not criminal, you can use it everywhere. You don't even have to let them know you're recording them. As long as you're part of the conversation in Idaho, you can record the conversation. And I honestly would not recommend having any of these conversations not in a written form. If they're not in a written form and they're audible either over the phone or in person, I wouldn't even recommend having them unless you're recording them.
Even going into the office.
I don't even care if you're just going in there casually to ask a few questions, just record it. If it's useless and it has no purpose, just delete it when you're done, I guess. But honestly, once they've said it, they can always say, oh, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
Right? We were talking
Or a
about
lot
that.
of times it can be a mistake. There's human errors where some people's been, they've been doing something for 6, 7 years. And no one's told them like, hey, you can't do that. You know?
Somebody will slip up, somebody will give information they weren't supposed to say, someone will say, oh, we've always done it like this, and
Right.
that'll be useful for us. We honestly, one thing we should probably work on as a group is somehow creating our own information and not relying on what they'll give
Yeah.
us.
Absolutely.
Because I didn't record in 16 who told me that 12
Yeah.
gallons per person of gray water was
Exactly,
legal in a
exactly.
garden.
And so you have no evidence
So
of it.
the other last thing is calls. There's an app called Call Recorder. It's a red circle with a green phone on there. And I record all my conversations and then I delete them afterwards. And it automatically kicks on, so I don't even have to push a button or
I'm
anything.
never answering your calls.
I know. I already have our conversation
Dang it.
recorded.
No, you called it Jeff, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
If you do FOIA requests, ask for the data emailed to you as scanned files. If you ask for paper files, if you get more than about 10 of them, they can start charging you for them. But they're very hard pressed to demand funds for an email of even extensive 100-page ones.
Yeah. Right. But be aware as well, if you continue to do it over and over and over, they might start trying to get you to pay up because you're taking up lots of time, whatever they do.
They don't want to do that to people named Dan.
Try the school system.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so does anyone have any other issues they want to tackle? I guess what we can do is if everyone here gets, is everyone here on Facebook? No? Neither am I. I've got my wife do it. You guys just try to bring your issues to Facebook and we can talk about it. We don't even have another meeting set. The next meeting we're going to is on the 21st. I would love for all of you guys to be there as part of the group. Have your voices heard. We are going to be putting out the information on the website to let everyone know where that meeting is, time, location. Yes, ma'am.
Assuming that they will send out an email to the email list as well, so those that aren't on Facebook might be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to be a part of the email list, Lynn's not here tonight.
I can take names and email addresses if they're not on Facebook and they want to use our email address, and I can get those to her.
Okay, if you guys want to be on the email list to keep up with what is going on, at least to get an email, talk to Jane, please. That's her. Okay, well that's pretty much it, guys, unless anyone has an issue they want to talk about or have any questions as to what we talked about last meeting, this meeting.
Do we want to discuss another meeting time after the 21st for this group to come together, or do we just do that on the Facebook?
Yeah, I think we'll announce it on the Facebook, and then we'll email everyone as well. And we'll kind of, I want to make sure that everyone knows what they're coming for. So we'll have a specific, hey, we're doing this, we're coming for that, that's what we're talking about, bring your friends.
What's the name of the Facebook site?
It's PRO.
PRO?
Property rights organization.
Anyone else? Did it? Boy, we went 3 hours last time, that was pretty good.
Helps having it written down,
3 lines.
This is the picture.
So to kind of reiterate what we said on the last one as well, guys, like this is a community effort. This is about reaching out to your neighbors. I know a lot of us, at least myself, I want to just go hide in the woods and not talk to anyone. We really can't be doing that anymore. We need to get with our neighbors, bring them in on this, and get involved, or we are going to lose this county and this state to all the BS that's coming up through California and Coeur d'Alene. Coeur d'Alene's already starting with the Agenda 2030 nonsense. They're not really hiding it anymore. It's taking place. You guys can check out North Idaho Exposed on YouTube. The guy's going at them like crazy, showing everything that they're doing at every turn. So you guys can support him. He's a good dude, friend of mine. He's supposed to be here tonight. His YouTube channel has been demonetized. It was very quick. Everything he does for free, and he does for the community. So just to throw that out there, he spends a lot of time, probably more than he should, bringing these issues to light. Anyone else? All right, quiet bunch tonight. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah, try to be quiet.